The email notification lit up my phone screen at 7:15 a.m. Urgent. Joint account termination request. Client priority. I couldn't help but smile as I read William's message to the bank, demanding our joint account be closed immediately. He thought he was teaching me a lesson about financial independence. What he didn't know was that tomorrow morning, I would be walking into Meridian Trust Bank's headquarters as their new regional director of operations, overseeing every branch in the Northeast, including the one where he'd just submitted his spiteful request. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my temporary apartment as I adjusted my navy Burberry suit, a gift to myself after signing my contract with Meridian Trust 3 weeks ago. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on me. While William was probably sitting in his corner office at the downtown branch, smugly thinking he'd cut off my access to our shared finances, I was preparing to become his boss's boss's boss. My phone buzzed again. Another email from Lisa, head of HR at Meridian's headquarters. Everything's set for tomorrow. The board is excited to have you on board, Carrie. Remember, we're keeping your position under wraps until the official announcement at 10 a.m. I checked my reflection one last time, tucking a strand of blonde hair behind my ear. The woman staring back at me was a far cry from the timid personal banking associate William had first met 12 years ago. Back then, I was just starting my career at a small local bank, wide-eyed and eager to learn. William, already a successful branch manager, had seemed so worldly, so confident. Banking is a man's world, sweetheart, he'd told me over dinner one evening, early in our relationship. You're better off focusing on personal banking. Leave the big decisions to those who understand the industry. He'd said it with that characteristic smile of his, the one that managed to be both charming and condescending at the same time. That conversation had lit a fire in me, though William never realized it. While he climbed the ranks at his branch, I spent my evenings pursuing my MBA, specializing in financial technology and digital banking transformation. Every time he dismissed my career aspirations as cute, I channeled that frustration into my studies, into networking, into building something he couldn't see coming. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from Monica, my sister. Did he really try to close the account? Yes, I typed back. Apparently, asking for a divorce last week wasn't enough of a power move for him. He's trying to prove a point. Monica's response was instant. Little does he know the weight of my new security. Badge felt heavy in my blazer pocket. For the next 24 hours, it would identify me only as Carrie Bennett, executive team, deliberately vague on direct orders from Jackson Cooper, the CEO who had headhunted me after my successful digital transformation of 3 major regional banks on the West Coast. Your track record speaks for itself, Jackson had said during my final interview. But it's your vision for modernizing our retail banking operations that really sold the board. We need someone who can lead Meridian Trust into the digital age. I checked my watch, 8:30 a.m. In my inbox, William's account closure request had already been flagged for executive review, thanks to the protocols I'd helped design but hadn't yet implemented. The old system would have simply processed it automatically. The new one recognized patterns of financial control and flagged them for investigation. My laptop pinged with a calendar reminder, 9 SAO a.m., pre-meeting with executive team. I'd be arriving early, of course. William had always mocked my habit of being unnecessarily early to everything. Banking runs on its own time, Carrie, he'd say. You need to learn to make people wait for you. I grabbed my leather portfolio and car keys, pausing at the door of my apartment. Part of me felt a twinge of sadness about how things had turned out. When I'd accepted the position at Meridian Trust last month, I'd actually planned to surprise William with the news over dinner. I thought he'd finally be proud, finally see me as an equal. Instead, I'd come home that evening to find him sitting at our kitchen table with divorce papers, complaining about how my frequent business trips and late-night studying had changed me, and how he needed someone more supportive of his career. The irony was almost poetic. My heels clicked against the marble lobby floor as I made my way to my car. The morning traffic was light, and I could already see Meridian Trust's distinctive glass tower rising above the city skyline. Somewhere in that building, William was probably settling into his morning routine, unaware that his world was about to shift dramatically. My phone buzzed one last time, an email from Lewis Parker, my soon-to-be deputy director. All branch managers will be attending today's video conference announcement. Shall we proceed as planned? Absolutely, I replied. No changes. I pulled into my reserved parking space. The one William would walk past every morning, now marked simply with executive management. In less than 2 hours, everyone would know exactly who occupied it. The security guard at the executive entrance greeted me with a practiced nod. Good morning, Ms. Bennett. The executive team is gathering in the conference room on 47. I stepped into the private elevator, watching the numbers climb. My temporary badge felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket, a reminder of the momentous changes to come. As the elevator doors opened onto the 47th floor, I straightened my shoulders and lifted my chin. William had always said I needed him to succeed in banking. Today, he would learn just how wrong he'd been. The journey from that small branch office to this moment had been long, but as I walked towards the executive conference room, I knew one thing for certain. Success wouldn't be about proving William wrong. It would be about proving myself right. The executive floor of Meridian Trust Bank hummed with quiet anticipation. Through the glass walls of the conference room, I could see various department heads gathering for the pre-announcement meeting. My soon-to-be leadership team, though they didn't know it yet. Lewis Parker, my future deputy director, approached with a tablet in hand. Ms. Bennett, I've finalized the presentation for the announcement. Would you like to review it before the others arrive? I nodded, accepting the tablet. Louis had been instrumental in keeping my appointment under wraps, coordinating with HR to ensure everything was in place for today. The presentation was flawless, a comprehensive overview of the digital transformation initiative I'd be spearheading, complete with implementation timelines and projected outcomes. Excellent work, Lua, I said, returning the tablet. And the branch manager's video conference links? All tested and ready. Every branch manager in the Northeast region will be attending virtually. His emphasis on every wasn't lost on me. William wouldn't be able to avoid this announcement even if he wanted to. The conference room began filling with executives, each casting curious glances my way. My temporary badge and presence at this level would raise questions, but that was part of the plan. Let them wonder. In less than an hour, everything would become clear. Through the glass, I caught sight of Natalia Rodriguez, head of retail banking operations, deep in conversation with Michael Thompson from Risk Management. Their animated discussion carried through the door as they entered. The account closure flags are triggering more frequently than expected, Michael was saying. Just this morning, we had a priority case. A branch manager trying to terminate a joint account without proper consultation with both parties. I suppressed a smile, keeping my expression neutral. The new protection protocols I'd designed were already making waves, though they hadn't been officially implemented yet. A small preview of the changes to come. Ms. Bennett? A young assistant appeared at my elbow. Mr. Cooper would like a word before the meeting begins. I followed her to Jackson Cooper's office, my heels silent against the plush carpet. The CEO's corner office offered a commanding view of the city, and I could just make out the downtown branch where William worked, its distinctive red brick facade standing out among the modern glass buildings. Carrie, Jackson stood from behind, his massive desk, extending his hand. Ready for the big reveal? More than ready, I replied, shaking his hand firmly. Though I must admit, the timing has worked out rather interestingly. Jackson's eyebrow raised slightly. Oh? Let's just say that certain branch managers might find today's announcement particularly surprising. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. I kept my tone professional, but Jackson wasn't CEO for nothing. Understanding flickered across his face. Yes. I heard about this morning's account closure flag. William Bennett, any relation? Soon-to-be ex-husband, I replied calmly. He's about to learn some valuable lessons about both professional conduct and personal judgment. Jackson leaned back against his desk, studying me thoughtfully. You know, when the board selected you for this position, it was based on your track record of transforming outdated banking systems into modern, customer-centric operations. Your handling of the Sterling Bank merger alone proved you understand both the human and technical sides of banking. But I have to admit, I'm even more impressed by your composure right now. I smiled, remembering the Sterling Bank merger, my first major success after leaving William's sphere of influence. Banking is about trust, Mr. Cooper, both from our customers and within our organization. Sometimes trust requires difficult conversations and significant changes. Indeed. He gestured to the wall of monitors behind his desk, where dozens of branch video feeds were already connecting to the conference system. Shall we give them something to talk about? Back in the conference room, the executive team had assembled in full. 15 of Meridian Trust's most senior leaders, all curious about the mystery woman with the temporary badge who seemed so at ease in their midst. Through the screens lining the walls, I could see branch managers logging into the video conference. My eyes found William immediately, his familiar face among the grid of windows, looking slightly impatient as he adjusted his tie. Louis appeared at my side, subtly positioning a folder in front of me. Inside was a single document, my official appointment letter, signed by the board of directors. In just a few minutes, a copy would appear in every employee's inbox, including William's. 2 minutes until we begin, Lisa from HR announced, her voice carrying across the room. The murmur of conversation died down as Jackson Cooper took his place at the head of the table. I sat quietly, reviewing my notes one final time. The presentation outlined not just my appointment, but the comprehensive changes coming to Meridian Trust under my leadership, digital transformation initiatives, customer protection protocols, modernized service platforms, everything William had dismissed as unnecessary complications when I'd tried to discuss similar ideas years ago. My phone buzzed one last time. Another notification about William's account closure request. The system had flagged it for potential financial manipulation, just as I'd designed it to do. By the end of today, it would become a perfect example of why our new protocols were necessary. Through the video feed, I watched William check his watch and frown. He'd always hated waiting, always insisted on running meetings on his own schedule. Today, he'd learn about the importance of patience, among other things. Jackson cleared his throat, calling the meeting to order. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this important announcement. As you know, Meridian Trust has been searching for the right person to lead our organizational transformation initiative. I straightened in my chair, feeling the weight of every eye in the room and every camera in the video conference. The moment of revelation was approaching, and with it, the beginning of a new era for both Meridian Trust and everyone in it. William had no idea that his attempt to exert financial control this morning would become a textbook example in our new training programs about customer protection and ethical banking practices. His last power play was about to become a lesson in humility, one that would reshape not just his career, but the entire organization's approach to customer service. As Jackson continued his introduction, I allowed myself one small, satisfied smile. Sometimes the best lessons come from unexpected teachers, and today, William was about to become both student and case study in the importance of professional ethics and personal integrity. It gives me great pleasure, Jackson Cooper continued, his voice carrying authority through both the conference room and video feeds, to introduce our new Regional Director of Operations for the Northeast Division. Through the video conference screen, I watched William suppress a yawn. He'd always considered these corporate announcements a waste of time, especially when they didn't directly involve him. His attention was focused on his phone, probably checking if the joint account closure had been processed yet. This individual brings an impressive track record of digital transformation and operational excellence, Jackson continued. Their recent success in modernizing 3 major West Coast banks caught our attention, but it was their innovative vision for customer protection and ethical banking practices that convinced our board. I noticed several branch managers perk up at the mention of West Coast banks. William's head lifted slightly, a flicker of recognition crossing his face. He'd dismissed my work there as small-scale projects when I'd tried to discuss them during our marriage. Please join me in welcoming our new regional director, Jackson gestured toward me, Carrie Bennett. I stood, smoothly removing my temporary badge as Lisa from HR handed me my official credentials. The reaction in the room was immediate, surprised. Murmurs from the executive team, approving nods from those like Louis who had been in on the appointment. But my attention was fixed on the video wall, specifically on William's feed. I watched as his expression transformed from boredom to confusion to dawning horror. His phone slipped from his fingers, clattering audibly through his microphone. Thanks. You, Mr. Cooper, I began, my voice steady and professional. I'm excited to lead Meridian Trust's transformation into the digital age. In fact, some of you may have already experienced one of our new initiatives this morning. I clicked to the first slide of my presentation, displaying the new account protection protocols. As of 6 a.m. today, we've implemented enhanced security, measures to protect our customers from potentially harmful financial actions. This includes flagging suspicious account closures and requiring executive review of any attempts to unilaterally terminate joint accounts. William's face had gone pale. Through his video feed, I could see him frantically checking his email, no doubt finding the automated response about his account closure request being flagged for review. This is just the first step in our comprehensive modernization strategy, I continued, moving through the presentation with practiced ease. Over the next 6 months, we'll be rolling out a series of customer protection initiatives, digital service enhancements, and ethical banking protocols that will set new standards for the industry. The executive team was fully engaged now, taking notes and nodding along with each point. Through the video feeds, I could see branch managers doing the same, except for William, who sat frozen, his tie suddenly looking too tight around his neck. Ms. Bennett, Michael from Risk Management spoke up. The account protection system you mentioned, is this related to the priority flag we received this morning? Excellent question, Michael, I replied, clicking to the next slide. In fact, let's use that as a case study. This morning at 7:15 a.m., a branch manager attempted to unilaterally close a joint account without proper consultation or documentation. Under our old system, this request would have been automatically processed, potentially leaving the other account holder in a vulnerable position. William's hand shot up in his video feed, his face now a shade of red I'd never seen before. Yes, Mr. Bennett? I acknowledged him with professional courtesy. You have a question about the new protocols? There must be some mistake, he stammered, his voice strained. Surely certain account actions should be expedited for branch managers. Actually, I cut in smoothly. Our new system is specifically designed to prevent any abuse of position or authority. Banking is built on trust, after all. We can't hold our customers to standards that we ourselves don't follow. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on the other branch managers. Several were hiding smiles behind their hands, particularly those who had worked under William and experienced his management style firsthand. Moving forward, I continued, changing slides. All branch managers will undergo mandatory training, In ethical banking practices and customer protection protocols, we're not just updating our systems, we're transforming our entire approach to banking. Lisa from HR stepped forward with a stack of folders, beginning to distribute them to the executive team. You'll find detailed implementation timelines and departmental responsibilities in these packets. Digital copies are being sent to all branch managers as we speak. I watched William's eyes dart back and forth as he presumably opened the email on his screen. His world was shifting seismically, and he couldn't even leave the video conference without drawing attention to himself. I'll be conducting personal visits to each branch over the next month, I announced, noting how William's head snapped up at this. These visits will help us identify areas where we can better serve our customers and support our employees. I look forward to seeing how each branch implements these new initiatives. Jackson Cooper stood again, moving to my side. The board has complete confidence in Ms. Bennett's vision for Meridian Trust. Her appointment represents our commitment to modernizing our operations while strengthening our ethical foundation. Through the video feed, I could see William loosening his tie, probably feeling the walls of his carefully constructed kingdom crumbling around him. The account closure request that he'd submitted as a power play had instead become evidence of exactly why we needed these new protocols. One final note, I added, my voice carrying clearly through the conference room and video feeds. Effective immediately, all pending account closure requests will be reviewed under the new guidelines. Our customer protection team will be reaching out to affected parties to ensure proper procedures are followed. William's face was a study in conflicting emotions: embarrassment, anger, fear, and something that might have been dawning respect. He'd always said banking was a man's world. Now he was learning that competence and ethics knew no gender. Any questions? I asked, surveying both the room and video feeds. William's hand, which had started to rise again, slowly lowered. As the meeting concluded and branch managers began signing off from the video conference, I noticed William lingering on his feed, clearly struggling with what to do or say. Finally, he just nodded once, a gesture of resignation and perhaps recognition, before his screen went dark. Impressive handling of the situation, Jackson murmured as the executive team began filing out. Both the professional and personal aspects. I gathered my materials, sliding them into my leather portfolio. Banking is about more than just numbers, Mr. Cooper. It's about integrity, trust, and doing what's right for our customers. Sometimes, that means leading by example. Through the glass walls, I could see my name already being added to the office door. Carrie Bennett, Regional Director of Operations. The temporary badge that had hidden my position now lay discarded on the conference table, no longer needed. My phone buzzed one final time, an automated notification about William's account closure request. Review status: denied. Reason: insufficient. Joint holder consultation. Action required. Schedule mediation meeting with customer protection team. I smiled, slipping the phone back into my pocket. Sometimes the best leadership lessons come from unexpected places, and today's events would shape more than just William's understanding of modern banking practices. By early afternoon, the news of my appointment had spread through every floor of Meridian Trust's headquarters like wildfire. The executive floor buzzed with activity as department heads and team leaders streamed in and out of my office, each eager to discuss the implementation of the new initiatives. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows of what had previously been the executive strategy room, now transformed into my open-concept office, I could see the city sprawling beneath gray clouds. Somewhere down there, in the downtown branch, William was undoubtedly dealing with his own storm of realizations. Ms. Bennett? Louis appeared in my doorway, tablet in hand. We've received responses from all branch managers about the new protocols. Would you like to review them? I gestured for him to enter, noting how the office dynamics had shifted in just a few hours. The same executives who had given me curious glances this morning now stopped to offer congratulations and express enthusiasm for the changes ahead. Thanks. You, Lewis, I said, accepting the tablet. Any particular responses stand out? He cleared his throat diplomatically. Well, the downtown branch manager's response was notably brief. I couldn't help but smile as I read William's terse acknowledgement. Protocols received. Will comply with new directives. The man who had once lectured me about the importance of detailed communication had suddenly become a minimalist. Ms. Bennett? Lisa from HR appeared next to Louis. We've had an unusual surge in internal applications for the customer protection team you're establishing. Apparently, your announcement really struck a chord. I wasn't surprised. In my research before taking this position, I discovered that many Meridian Trust employees had long wanted to improve customer protections, but lacked the platform or support to make changes. Send me the applications, I replied. And Lisa, let's prioritize candidates who've previously raised concerns about customer vulnerability. They clearly understand why these changes matter. My phone buzzed. A message from Monica. Just saw the company-wide announcement email. How's William taking his new reality? Before I could respond, Jackson Cooper appeared in my doorway. Carrie, got a minute? There's something you should see. I followed him to his office, where he pulled up a dashboard on his wall monitor. Look at these numbers. Customer service satisfaction scores are already trending up, just from the announcement of the new protocols. Word's getting out that we're taking customer protection seriously. The graphs showed a clear uptick in positive feedback, particularly around account security and service confidence. It was early data, but promising. The board's thrilled, Jackson continued. But we've also received some interesting feedback from the downtown branch. Let me guess, I said. Concerns about operational efficiency and unnecessary bureaucracy? Jackson chuckled. William's exact words, actually, though he was much more measured in expressing them than I expected. Amazing how a shift in perspective can improve one's diplomatic skills. A knock at the door interrupted us. Michael from Risk Management, looking slightly anxious. Sorry to interrupt, but we've just received a rather unusual request from the downtown branch, he said. Mr. Bennett is asking to be included in the first round of ethical banking training. He's volunteered to be a test case for the new protocols. I raised an eyebrow, genuinely surprised. This wasn't the William I knew, the man who had dismissed every suggestion of policy change as unnecessary red tape. Accept his request, I decided. And Michael? Make sure the training includes our case study about this morning's account closure. Attempt. Sometimes the best lessons come from personal experience. As I returned to my office, I found Natalia from retail operations waiting with a stack of reports. The branch manager's meeting recordings have been transcribed, she said. I thought you might want to review some of the reactions to your announcement. The transcript revealed a fascinating pattern. While William had remained conspicuously silent after his failed intervention, other branch managers had become increasingly engaged, offering suggestions and asking thoughtful questions about implementing the new protections. Ms. Bennett? My assistant's voice came through the intercom. There's a sensitive matter requiring your attention. The downtown branch has submitted a formal request for leadership counseling. I knew what this meant. William was trying to get ahead of any potential disciplinary action regarding the account closure attempt. It was actually a smart move, showing initiative in addressing his mistake before being called out for it. Schedule it for tomorrow morning, I replied. And make sure the customer protection team is present. This will be an excellent training opportunity. My phone buzzed again, this time an email from William himself. Carrie, I want to formally apologize for this morning's account closure attempt. It was unprofessional and contrary to the principles of ethical banking you outlined in today's presentation. I request the opportunity to discuss how I can better align my branch's operations with Meridian Trust's new direction. Regards, William Bennett, Downtown Branch Manager. The email was perfectly crafted, professional, contrite, and forward-looking. nothing like the dismissive tone he'd used just yesterday when discussing my career ambitions over divorce papers. "Louis?" I called out. He appeared instantly at my door. "Schedule a comprehensive audit of the downtown branch's account management practices for next week. Let's see if William's new enthusiasm for ethical banking extends beyond personal damage control." As the afternoon wore on, the initial shock of the morning's revelations gave way to focused activity. Teams began forming to implement various aspects of the transformation initiative. The customer protection protocols were already being fine-tuned, based on feedback from the morning's test case. "The media department's requesting a statement," Lisa informed me, appearing with another stack of papers. "Your appointment and the new customer protection initiatives are generating significant industry interest." I nodded, scanning the press inquiries. "Schedule a press conference for next week. Let's give William and the other branch managers time to complete their first round of ethics training before we go public with the full initiative." Through my office windows, I could see the downtown branch building. The same red brick facade that had once represented William's domain now stood as a symbol of the changes sweeping through Meridian Trust. "Ms. Bennett?" Louis appeared one final time. "The customer protection team has drafted their response to this morning's account closure attempt. They're recommending a mandatory financial ethics workshop for all branch managers, using today's incident as a teaching moment." "Approve it," I said, turning back to my desk. "And Louis? Make sure William receives the workshop materials in advance. He's about to become very familiar with the importance of customer protection protocols." As the day drew to a close, I received one last notification. "Joint account status update. Protection review complete. Action taken. Account maintained. Mandatory consultation scheduled. Case added to ethics training curriculum." Sometimes, I reflected, the most effective leadership lessons come wrapped in humility. William had tried to teach me that banking was a man's world. Instead, he'd become an object lesson in why the industry needed to change. And I was just getting started. 1 month into my tenure as regional director, Meridian Trust had undergone a metamorphosis that exceeded even Jackson Cooper's optimistic projections. The quarterly performance reports told a compelling story. Customer satisfaction up 45%, account retention increased by 38%, and ethics compliance ratings reaching record highs. From my office on the 47th floor, I reviewed the latest branch performance metrics while sipping my morning coffee. The downtown branch's numbers particularly caught my attention. They had gone from having the highest number of customer complaints to being a model for customer protection implementation. "Ms. Bennett?" Louis entered with his ever-present tablet. "The results from the first round of ethical banking certifications are in. You might find this interesting." I accepted the tablet, unable to suppress a smile as I read the top score. William Bennett, 98%. The man who had once dismissed banking ethics as feel-good bureaucracy had apparently become its most dedicated student. He requested to be an instructor for the next training session, Louis added, his tone carefully neutral. Apparently, his case study on the importance of joint account holder rights has become quite popular among the trainees. Before I could respond, Lisa appeared in my doorway. "Carrie, you need to see this. The American Banking Association just released their quarterly review." She handed me a printout of the article. Meridian Trust sets new industry standard for customer protection. The piece detailed how our new protocols were being studied by other major banks as a blueprint for ethical banking practices. "The interview requests are piling up," Lisa continued. "Forbes, Wall Street Journal, Banking Monthly, they all want to know about the Meridian Trust revolution." My phone buzzed, a message from Monica. "Just saw your bank on the morning news. Guess who they interviewed?" I pulled up the news clip on my computer. There was William, standing in front of the downtown branch, speaking passionately about Meridian Trust's commitment to customer protection. "Banking isn't just about numbers," he was saying to the reporter. "It's about trust, ethics, and protecting our customers. Sometimes it takes a fresh perspective to help us see what's really important. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same man who had tried to unilaterally close our joint account was now becoming the public face of customer financial protection. Ms. Bennett? My assistant's voice came through the intercom. Mr. Bennett is here for the branch manager's weekly review. I checked my watch, exactly 5 minutes early. Another change. William had always insisted on making others wait for him. Send him in, I replied, organizing the performance reports on my desk. William entered, his demeanor professionally composed. Gone was the arrogant swagger that had once characterized his movements. He carried a thick folder of reports and analytics. Good morning, Ms. Bennett, he began, taking the seat I indicated. I've prepared a comprehensive analysis of our customer protection implementations, along with suggestions for further improvements. I accepted the folder, noting its meticulous organization. I saw your interview this morning, I said, keeping my tone neutral. A slight flush colored his cheeks. Yes, well, I've learned a lot this past month. About banking, about leadership, about many things. He paused, seeming to gather his thoughts. The ethics workshop. Using my account closure attempt as a case study, it was enlightening. Humbling, but enlightening. The best lessons often are, I replied, reviewing his analysis. The suggestions were actually quite innovative. Ideas for extending customer protections, enhancing financial literacy programs, improving communication, protocols. You've put a lot of thought into this, I observed. William nodded, his expression earnest. I've been doing a lot of reflection about my management style, my assumptions about banking, about how I treated you and your ideas. Before I could respond, Jackson Cooper appeared in the doorway. Sorry to interrupt, but you both need to see this. He flipped on the office TV, where CNBC was running a special report. Banking giant Meridian Trust leads industry revolution in customer protection. The report detailed how our protocols had already prevented hundreds of potential financial abuse cases across the region. The board is ecstatic, Jackson announced. They want to roll out these protocols nationwide. Carrie, they're creating a new position, National Director of Customer Protection and Ethical Banking Practices. I could feel William's eyes on me. As Jackson continued, they want you to develop the implementation strategy. You'll need to appoint someone to take over as regional director. Actually, I interjected, I have someone in mind. I turned to William, whose expression showed dawning understanding. Someone who's learned the importance of customer protection firsthand. William's face registered shock, followed by careful consideration. The downtown branch's transformation has been impressive, I finished. Your recent work demonstrates exactly the kind of leadership we need, assuming you're interested in proving that banking can be both profitable and ethical. I would need to earn it, he said slowly. Properly. This time, no shortcuts, no assumptions of privilege. Exactly, I nodded. The position would require additional certification, comprehensive ethics training, and a proven track record of implementing customer protection protocols. Jackson smiled. Well, this is unexpected but fitting. I'll let the board know we have a potential candidate. William, you'll need to submit a formal application and development plan. After Jackson left, William remained seated, his expression thoughtful. I owe you an apology, he said finally. Many apologies, actually. I was so convinced I knew everything about banking that I couldn't see the industry was changing. Couldn't see that you were right. Banking did need to change, I agreed. Sometimes it takes a shock to the system to catalyze that change. Like trying to close a joint account and discovering your ex-wife is your new boss? A hint of his old humor flickered in his eyes, but without the former arrogance. Life has a way of teaching us what we need to learn, I replied, returning to his proposal. These suggestions for expanding customer protection, they're good. Implement them at the downtown branch. Show me they work. Prove you mean what you said in that interview. William stood, straightening his tie, a gesture that now seemed more habitual than performative. I won't disappoint you. Not this time. As he reached the door, he paused. You know, I used to tell you banking was a man's world. I was wrong. It's not about gender, it's about vision, about doing what's right for our customers. You helped me see that. After he left, I turned to look out over the city. The downtown branch stood as a testament to how much could change in just 1 month. My phone buzzed with another message from Monica. Saw the CNBC report. From closing accounts to protecting them, quite a transformation. I smiled, remembering William's words from just a few weeks ago. You'll never succeed in banking without me. He'd been wrong about that, but perhaps he'd stumbled into being right about something else. Sometimes the best way to succeed is to help others transform along with you. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across my desk, where the morning's performance reports still lay. Among them, William's proposal for expanding customer protections represented more than just policy changes. It represented the possibility that people, like institutions, could learn, grow, and transform. And sometimes, I reflected, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's creating positive change that transforms not just an industry, but the people within it. 6 months after my appointment as National Director of Customer Protection and Ethical Banking Practices, I stood at the podium during Meridian Trust's annual shareholder meeting, presenting the results of our nationwide transformation initiative. Under the new customer protection protocols, I announced to the packed auditorium, Meridian Trust has seen a 300% increase in customer trust ratings, a 200% rise in new account applications, and our ethical banking practices have become the industry standard. From my position on stage, I could see William sitting in the front row, nodding along with the statistics. His recent promotion to regional director had been earned through merit and dedication, proving himself through actions, rather than assertions. The quarterly reports from the Northeast region under his leadership showed impressive improvements in both customer satisfaction and ethical compliance. But numbers tell only part of our story, I continued, clicking to the next slide. The real success lies in the culture we've built together, a culture where customer protection isn't just a policy, it's a fundamental principle. The presentation screen displayed testimonials from customers whose financial security had been protected by our new protocols. Each story represented a life impacted, a vulnerable person protected, a potential crisis averted. Ms. Bennett? Lewis, now William's deputy director, appeared at my side during the post-presentation reception. The Federal Banking Commission just released their annual report. They're recommending our customer protection protocols as the new national standard. I accepted the report, scanning its contents. Our joint account protection system, born from that pivotal morning 6 months ago, was being hailed as a revolutionary approach to preventing financial abuse. Quite a journey from that account closure attempt, a familiar voice observed. William had approached, carrying 2 glasses of sparkling water. He offered one to me with a self-deprecating smile. I found the original request form the other day, he said, his tone reflective. Hard to believe I was ever that person. He paused, considering his words carefully. You know, I keep that form framed in my office now, a reminder of how wrong our assumptions can be. Before I could respond, Jackson Cooper joined us, his face beaming. Have you seen the latest numbers? The Southeast region is requesting priority implementation of our protection protocols. They're calling it the Meridian Method. Actually, William interjected, we should call it the Bennett Method, though not for the reasons I would have suggested 6 months ago. He nodded respectfully in my direction. My phone buzzed, a message from Monica. Watching the shareholder live stream, from joint account drama to national banking revolution. Now that's what I call a power move. Ms. Bennett? Lisa approached, with a tablet. Fortune magazine is here for your interview. They're doing a cover story, Banking's Ethical Revolution, How One Woman's Vision Changed an Industry. I glanced at William, catching a flash of his old competitive spirit, now tempered with genuine respect. Tell them the real story, he said, about how sometimes our biggest professional failures can lead to the most important transformations. The interview was scheduled in the same conference room where I'd revealed my position 6 months ago. The space had been renovated, like much of the building, to reflect our new transparent banking culture. Glass walls, open spaces, visible ethics commitments displayed prominently. An interesting choice of location, the Fortune reporter observed, setting up her recorder. This room represents our journey, I explained. It's where we began our transformation from traditional banking to ethical leadership. William had quietly taken a seat at the back of the room, his presence a testament to how much had changed. The reporter noticed him and smiled. Mr. Bennett, your implementation of the customer protection protocols in the Northeast region has been remarkably successful. Any insights to share? He caught my eye before responding. Success in banking isn't about power or control, he said thoughtfully. It's about trust, protection, and doing what's right for our customers. Sometimes it takes a significant wake-up call to help us see that. The reporter turned back to me. And what's next for Meridian Trust? We're launching a comprehensive financial literacy program, I replied, making sure our customers don't just trust us with their money, but understand how to protect and grow it themselves. After the interview, I returned to my office to find a small package on my desk. Inside was a framed document, the original joint account closure request form, with a note from William. A reminder that our biggest mistakes can lead to our most important achievements. Thank you for turning my moment of weakness into an opportunity for growth. My phone buzzed with a notification. The American Banking Association had just announced their annual awards. Meridian Trust had won Most Innovative Customer Protection Program and Excellence in Ethical Banking Leadership. Quite a turnaround, Jackson observed from my doorway. The board's already talking about expanding your role to global ethics and protection director. Seems your vision is catching on internationally. I smiled, remembering William's words from what felt like a lifetime ago. Banking is a man's world. Now it was simply a world of ethical responsibility and customer protection, regardless of gender or position. Ms. Bennett? My assistant's voice came through the intercom. The customer protection team has their weekly report. The new protocols have prevented over 10,000 potential financial abuse cases nationwide. Each number represented a person protected, a family's finances secured, a potential crisis averted. The joint account that William had tried to close had become the catalyst for an industry-wide revolution in customer protection. Later that evening, as the office grew quiet, I stood at my window watching the city lights twinkle against the darkening sky. The downtown branch where this journey began now served as a training center for ethical banking practices, with William leading seminars on customer protection and financial responsibility. My phone lit up with one final message, an email from William to all regional managers. Remember, our success isn't measured just in numbers, but in the trust we build and the customers we protect. Every account represents a person, every transaction a responsibility. Let's continue to lead by example. I smiled, knowing that sometimes the most powerful changes come not from revenge or confrontation, but from transformation and growth. What had started as a personal conflict had evolved into a movement that was reshaping the entire banking industry. The lights of the city continued to shine, each one representing a customer, a family, a future we were now better equipped to protect. In the end, the greatest victory wasn't in proving William wrong, but in helping him, and the entire industry, become something better. Banking had indeed changed, not just for me or William, but for everyone. And that, I reflected, was the most satisfying outcome of all. 1 year after the morning that changed everything, I stood in my new office on the top floor of Meridian Trust's global headquarters. The view stretched beyond the city limits, a fitting metaphor for how far our influence had spread. The Wall Street Journal lay open on my desk, its headline bold and clear. Meridian Trust's ethical banking revolution goes global. As Global Director of Ethics and Customer Protection, I now oversaw the implementation of our protocols across 3 continents. The simple joint account protection system that had started with William's ill-fated closure attempt had evolved into a comprehensive framework for ethical banking practices worldwide. Ms. Bennett? Natalia appeared in my doorway, now serving as head of international operations. The London office just finished their protection protocol implementation. Their customer satisfaction scores are already up 40%. I nodded, reviewing the data on my tablet. And the Tokyo branch? Ahead of schedule, she replied. William's training program has been particularly effective there. They're calling him the Ethics Ambassador. The irony of that title wasn't lost on me. William had transformed from someone who once viewed banking as a power game into a leading advocate for customer protection. His journey had become a case study at top business schools. The Bennett transformation, from control to protection. My phone buzzed, a message from Monica. Just saw your TED Talk on ethical banking got 2 million views. Who knew that joint account drama would lead to this? The talk, titled Banking with a Conscience, How Customer Protection Changed Global Finance, had indeed gone viral. Business schools were incorporating our story into their ethics curriculum, and financial regulators worldwide were studying our protocols. Carrie? Jackson Cooper's voice drew my attention. He stood in the doorway, looking pleased. The World Banking Commission just released their annual report. They're officially adopting our protection standards as global requirements. I accepted the report, noting how our original protocols had been expanded and enhanced through collaboration with international partners. What began as a response to one manager's attempt to abuse his position had grown into a worldwide movement for customer protection. Ms. Bennett? Louis appeared with his tablet. William's keynote at the European Banking Summit just concluded. The response was overwhelming. I pulled up the live stream recording. There was William, speaking passionately about the importance of ethical banking to a packed auditorium in Brussels. Banking isn't about power, he was saying. It's about protection, trust, and responsibility. Sometimes it takes a personal failure to help us understand our true purpose. The camera panned to show bankers from across Europe nodding in agreement. Our story had resonated far beyond Meridian Trust, touching something fundamental about the relationship between financial institutions and their customers. The transformation numbers are remarkable, Lisa commented, joining us with fresh statistics. Global customer trust in banking is at its highest level in decades. Financial abuse cases have dropped 70% in regions using our protocols. My phone lit up with another notification. Forbes had just released their annual Most Influential People in Banking list. My name was at the top, with a caption that made me smile. The woman who revolutionized banking ethics. Speaking of influence, Jackson added, the Harvard Business Review wants to do a comprehensive case study on our transformation. They're particularly interested in how a personal conflict led to institutional change. I glanced at the framed joint account, closure form still hanging on my wall. William's gift from 6 months ago. It had become something of a legend in banking circles, the catalyst that sparked a global revolution in financial ethics. Ms. Bennett? My assistant's voice came through the intercom. The UN Financial Protection Committee is on line 1. They want to discuss implementing our protocols in developing nations. Before I could respond, William himself appeared in my doorway, looking energized despite his recent return from Brussels. Just finished a fascinating discussion with the European Commission, he said. They're amazed by how a simple customer protection protocol could transform entire banking systems. Sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest moments, I replied, gesturing for him to enter. He nodded, taking a seat. I've been thinking about that morning, when I tried to close our account. He smiled ruefully. I thought I was exercising power. Instead, I became part of a case study in why banking needed to change. We all did, I acknowledged. The industry needed a wake-up call. It just came from an unexpected place. My phone buzzed again. An alert about Meridian Trust's stock price hitting another record high. Ethical banking, it turned out, wasn't just morally right, it was profitable. The Singapore office is launching next week, William mentioned, checking his calendar. They've requested I lead the ethics training personally. Apparently, my cautionary tale has become quite the teaching tool. Your honesty about your journey has helped others understand why these changes matter, I observed. It's not just about protocols. It's about changing mindsets. As if on cue, Lisa appeared with more news. The banking ethics curriculum we developed is being adopted by major universities worldwide. They're calling it the Meridian Model. William stood, straightening his tie, now a gesture of preparation rather than pride. I should head down to the training center. New group of international managers arriving today. He paused at the door. I used to think banking was about control. You showed me it's about protection. That lesson probably saved my career. After he left, I turned to the window, watching the city stretch toward the horizon. Somewhere out there, countless customers were safer because of a morning that could have gone very differently. My phone lit up one final time, a message from a customer whose joint account had been protected by our systems. Thank you for making banking safe for everyone. That, I reflected, was the true measure of our success. Not the awards, not the stock price, not even the global adoption of our protocols. It was the simple fact that people felt safer, more protected, more valued by their financial institutions. The sun was setting over the city, casting long shadows across my office. The framed account closure form caught the last rays of light, a reminder that sometimes our greatest achievements grow from our most challenging moments. Banking had indeed changed, I thought, but not in the way anyone had expected. It had become something better, a force for protection rather than power, for service rather than control. And that transformation would be our lasting legacy. 18 months after that transformative morning, I stood in the grand ballroom of the International Banking Conference in Geneva, preparing to deliver the keynote address. The room was packed with financial leaders from around the world, all eager to hear about the revolution that had started with a simple joint account closure attempt. Banking's transformation over the past year and a half has been remarkable, I began, surveying the attentive faces before me. But what's most extraordinary isn't the protocols we implemented or the systems we built. It's the fundamental shift in how we view our responsibility to customers. From my position at the podium, I could see William in the audience, now serving as Global Ethics Training Director for Meridian Trust. He sat next to Louis, who had recently been promoted to Chief of Customer Protection Operations. Both men were taking notes, though they'd heard this story many times before. 5 years ago, I continued, if someone had suggested that customer protection would become the driving force in global banking, they would have been dismissed as idealistic. Today, it's our industry's fundamental principle. The screens behind me displayed the latest statistics. Financial abuse cases down 85% globally in regions using our protocols, customer trust ratings at historic highs, and ethical banking practices, becoming the standard worldwide. Ms. Bennett? Natalia appeared at my side during the post-speech reception. The World Bank just announced their new initiative. They're creating a global customer protection framework based on our model. I accepted the press release, noting how our original protocols had evolved and expanded. What had started as a response to one manager's attempted financial control had grown into a worldwide standard for ethical banking. Quite a legacy, Jackson Cooper observed, joining us with a glass of sparkling water. The board's talking about creating a new position, Global Chief Ethics Officer. They want someone who can guide the entire industry toward this new model of banking. Before I could respond, Lisa hurried over with her tablet. You need to see this. Harvard Business School just made our case study mandatory reading for all finance majors. They're calling it the Meridian Revolution, how customer protection transformed global banking. My phone buzzed. A message from Monica. Watching your Geneva keynote livestream. From joint account drama to reshaping global banking. You've come a long way, sis. You certainly have, William added, approaching our group. He'd just finished leading a panel discussion on implementing ethical banking practices in emerging markets. Though I suppose I helped in an unconventional way. Your cautionary tale has become quite the teaching tool, I acknowledged, watching him smile ruefully. Speaking of teaching, he said, the Ethics Training Center is expanding again. We're opening branches in Dubai, Singapore, and São Paulo. Turns out there's a global appetite for banking reform. The Ethics Training Center had grown from a single floor in our downtown branch to an international institution, training thousands of banking professionals in customer protection and ethical practices. Ms. Bennett? My assistant appeared with urgent news. The European Union just passed their comprehensive banking reform bill. They're adopting our protection protocols as mandatory standards across the EU. I reviewed the announcement, remembering how this all began. The framed account, closure form still hung in my office, now accompanied by numerous awards and recognitions. But the true measure of our success wasn't in the accolades. It was in the millions of customers whose financial security we'd helped protect. The transformation numbers are extraordinary, Lewis commented, showing me his tablet. Customer satisfaction, up 400% globally, financial abuse prevention rates at 95%, and banking trust metrics at unprecedented levels. My phone lit up with another notification. Time magazine had named me one of their 100 most influential people. The article credited our customer protection protocols with fundamentally reshaping the relationship between financial institutions and their customers. You know what's really remarkable? William mused, watching bankers from around the world network and discuss ethical practices. We're not just changing policies, we're changing banking culture. The next generation of financial leaders will take customer protection for granted as a fundamental principle. He was right. The banking world had shifted dramatically from the days when he'd told me it was a man's world. Now it was simply a world of ethical responsibility and customer service, regardless of gender or position. Ms. Bennett? A young banker approached, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. Your story inspired me to propose new protection protocols at my bank in Malaysia. We've just finished implementation and the results are amazing. These encounters had become common. Young financial professionals from around the world sharing how our example had inspired them to drive change in their own institutions. The ripple effects are still spreading, Jackson observed. Every week we hear about new banks adopting our protocols, new regions implementing protection standards, new success stories from around the world. As the conference continued around us, I found myself reflecting on the journey. The morning William had tried to close our joint account seemed like a lifetime ago, yet it had set in motion changes that were still transforming the industry. Ms. Bennett? Lisa appeared with more news. The International Banking Standards Committee wants to create a permanent position for you, Chief Advisor on Global Banking Ethics. They want to ensure these changes become permanent. My phone buzzed once more, an email from a customer in Brazil. Your protection protocols saved my family's finances. Thank you for making banking safe for everyone, everywhere. That evening, as the Geneva lights twinkled below my hotel room window, I thought about the future of banking. What had started as a personal conflict had evolved into something far more significant, a fundamental reimagining of what banking could and should be. William's voice from the conference echoed in my mind. Sometimes our biggest mistakes lead to the most important changes. He'd gone from trying to control one joint account to helping protect millions of accounts worldwide. The next morning's agenda included meetings with banking regulators from Asia, Africa, and South America, all eager to implement our protection protocols in their regions. The revolution that began in one bank branch was now circling the globe, changing lives and institutions along the way. As I prepared my notes for the next day's sessions, I smiled at the simple truth we'd discovered. Banking's future wasn't about power or control. It was about protection, trust, and responsibility. And that future was already here, spreading across borders and transforming institutions, one customer at a time. The story that had started with a spiteful account closure attempt had become a blueprint for global banking reform. But more importantly, it had shown that real change often comes not from seeking revenge, but from transforming challenges into opportunities to make things better for everyone. That, I reflected, would be our lasting legacy to the banking world. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.